Hello everyone, and welcome to Studio One TV and the Marshall Community Services News Show for November 2017. My name is Doug Goodman, and for the next half hour or so, we're going to bring you up to date on what's happening with the Marshall Community Services Program and the many events, activities, and programs that are happening here during the month of November as we roll in to a winter sports and activities season. We're here on the campus of SMSU in Studio One, and of course, out on SMSU campus, it's in the BA 174 building. That's the room number, and of course, we're very blessed to have this opportunity to once again share with you all the wonderful things that are happening in our community through Studio One TV. Behind the cameras is Ryan Myberg and Alex Peterson, our Studio One staff. And again, if you do have any questions, they're later on in the show going to provide some numbers, some information, maybe even a couple of websites that you can go on to check, find out more of the things we're talking about today, figure out more information, how to get involved with our community services program. And I will quickly hold up our community services fall brochure. This actually arrived in everybody's mailboxes back in mid-August, and still lots of programs to come here. It takes you all the way up to January 1st. So if you don't have one of these, stop by, pick one up, or actually you can be able to go online and see everything that's in here. Now, part of our Marshall Community Services News program is to bring on a very special guest each and every month. And with me, I'm very blessed to have Barb Lipinski, our Adult Community Center Coordinator. Some people kind of refer to it as the Senior Center, but we don't go by that anymore. It's actually the Adult Community Center, and there's a big section of it, information programs in this brochure that we're going to talk about. But welcome, Barb. It's a pleasure to have you here.
It's great to be here, Doug.
Well, and again, I just quickly, as we're kind of waiting for everything to get set to go, noticed a couple things in the brochure, and actually, it's right here, and I want to mention it, that the Adult Community Center's address is 107 South 4th Street.
That is correct.
For most people, they don't know the streets or anything, but if you were to just say, where is it in relationship to the rest of the city, where would you say?
I'd say, hey, familiar with downtown Marshall and Main Street? Here's my clue. You know where Thrifty Drug White Store is? Walk in their front door, walk through their store, out the back door, look across the parking lot, and we're the big red building. That's us.
The big red building, and I know you have a wonderful facility there, and of course the Adult Community Center, and I'll real quickly run through this. I know you were going to talk about some of this, but is staffed by you, the coordinator, Barb Lipinski. Mm-hmm. You also have a very great assistant program specialist, Heather Radke.
That's correct.
Well, Barb, the Marshall Adult Community Center is a 5-day-a-week adventure. I know you're going by that now because when I call you, you typically answer, usually always answer, but sometimes you're so busy, I get this, Heather and Barb are out on another adventure.
And we truly are.
And you really have a wonderful program going there. You have newsletters, you have membership. In fact, you're at your highest membership ever, aren't you?
Yes, we're knocking on the door of 700. We're at like 692, I believe. 692 members. Yep, so we're 8 shy of 700.
Oh my goodness. And of course, you continue to grow. How's the facility doing? Are you outgrowing that facility yet?
Well, Heather and I have taken a close look at the facility. There's days where we have people in every nook and cranny, and literally every nook and cranny, like as in the lobby also. And then there's other days where we've discovered that we can take part of our programming outside of the building so that those who are 55 and best can experience Marshall firsthand. And so we've done some of that. So we're adjusting with our growth and membership with our building.
Well, that's wonderful. And of course, Barb and Heather and all the great people over at the Adult Community Center are part of the Marshall Community Services Program. You're an entity within, as we have interviewed various people with our ABE programs, our recreation programs, right. Cody out at the arena. Right. All are part of the umbrella of community services under the city of Marshall.
Yes, and it's a wonderful unit to be part of, because I truly believe that in Marshall, with the community services, they're looking to serve those from the very first moment that they're born until they're no longer here. So we cover that whole spectrum.
Well, and that's important because, people are active, people want to be active, and you offer a wide variety of programs. And of course, as I once again refer to page 48 of this brochure that we talked about earlier, it really is a 5-day-a-week adventure that impacts the lives of many.
Yes.
And you have a promotion called Living Life
Yes.
that pretty much focuses on connecting people, learning new things, arts, crafts, leisure, entertainment, special events, anything that age 50, 55?
55 and best.
55 and best, all the way up to your oldest member, which is
104, living on her own.
living on her own at 104. What a great tribute.
Yeah, and she used to do my job.
Well, that's wonderful because you've been with the city, and that's a great segue. Barb, when did you start in your position?
95.
1995. So that's 20 years?
22 years.
22 years.
Yep. Yep.
And you've done a wonderful job. And maybe tell us a little bit about your family and your personal life a little bit.
Well, I grew up in a family by Minneota, so I'm not far from home. I have 3 older brothers, and I say I always learn the best pranks to pull without getting in trouble from them. And then I have a younger sister, and I had a younger brother who was killed in an automobile accident. Grew up in Minneota, graduated from Minneota, got married, took an adventure on the road there, came back to Marshall and went to SMSU, have a marketing degree, and remarried to my current husband, Gary, and we have 3 children. Wendy, who's in Chicago, and Tanya, who's by Mankato, and then Chad, who's in LA.
Wow, so you get to travel around a little bit, a little to the east, a little to the west,
Yeah.
and a little to even closer in Mankato. So that's wonderful. And of course, 22 years ago, what attracted you about this adult community center, which is, kind of a target population? What attracted you to maybe apply for that position?
It's a really funny story, to be honest with you. And it's funny in a couple of ways. First of all, I was working at Hill Street Place at the time, and I absolutely loved what I was doing there because I, of course, was working with seniors. And I was having my own adventures over there and just really connecting with them. And then I had a friend come to me and say, hey, there's a job opening, and I think you are the perfect person for it. You should apply. And I said, I'm not so sure. I said, I got to think about that a little bit. And so I thought about it, and I thought, well, it really won't hurt. I'm still going to be working with seniors. They're going to be in a different stage of life, but it'll be really, really interesting. It'll be a new adventure. So I put my application in, and I went through the process, and anybody with the city knows this. They went through the process. They made the job offer to someone else. That person decided not to take the job, whom I've become friends with, who is at another senior center in Buffalo and is now retired. And then they came back and offered the job to me, and I said, yeah, I'd take it. And so then the journey began, and it's just been absolutely fun being with those 55 and best, seeing them really, truly living life. I mean, how often do you see people say that, and I find this very true out in the community, if you say you work with the old people, they kind of just turn and go, oh, okay. I don't know what to say to them. We say, hey, wait a second. We're having more fun than you guys can imagine. You have a lot to look forward to. And so that's where our adventure begins each day, is that we know there's a lot to look forward to.
Well, and that's really special, and I appreciate your sharing that story because, over the last 22 years, things have changed quite a bit. Our boomer generation, which of course is one of the larger generations, is now in that era of being members, part of your 800. And what has been maybe the biggest challenge?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is always making sure that as we do our programming, we adjust for the new generations, but you also got to mix it in with the current generation. So we serve 4 generations. And I always find it interesting. Heather and I just had this long conversation last week. People say the boomer generation, and I'm part of them. But really, are they any that different?
No.
I say no. I say what they really want is to feel a connection within the community that they live, and that they can go and have a connecting point with people of their like age. And that's what we provide. We provide that connection, and then they can take the adventure wherever they would choose to take that.
Well, and I also am of the boomer generation, and that makes a lot of sense. And, you know, if someone were to ask me that question, I'd say maybe the technology aspect of it, because as boomers, we were pretty amazed when we had electric typewriters or were exposed to electric typewriters. Now with computers and laptops and iPads and smartphones and everything else, how are you addressing that?
Well, we find out that our seniors are much more advanced than people think. We don't offer computer classes because they've got them at home. Heather and I laugh that we're tech illiterate, and we're able to do what we need to do, but we find that the seniors have learned many more things than what we have because they use them to stay connected to their family. And where are their families? They may have a son or daughter close, but nowadays most family like mine is spread over many, many miles. So how do they stay connected through that technology? I will say that I have learned from that also with my family spread. I can FaceTime, I can Skype, I can call up my kids and connect with them through Hangout. It's because of those connector pieces that the seniors today, if we do anything technology-wise, we bring in Teresa McCoy from the middle school.
She's wonderful.
And she sits down there and she answers their questions about the problems they're having. They know how to run the iPads, the smartphones, the computers. They've got that so down pat for the purposes that they need them from. They just need to know that when there's a problem or a glitch, how do I fix it?
Yep.
And so that's the small part that we focus on with technology. Because they really, truly have it. It's amazing when we did the first Facebook class, I mean, and within a week they had like 20, 30 friends, and they were already Facebooking back and forth, and hey, I now know what my grandson's doing, my granddaughter's doing, and I finally know what my daughter's doing. It just connected them. So
All
they
good
found the
stuff.
value in that technology.
All good stuff. Great stuff. And of course, that shows in how your membership increases. And you also are connected in a lot of different ways. You're involved with senior dining also a little bit as a host site. Is that true?
Well, senior dining actually rents, in essence, which is a small stipend that they give us for using the space in our facility. That program is housed in the center, but we do not have any control over the program. It is like a separate program within
the facility.
Yes. And so they offer a noon meal every day, Monday through Friday, at the center, and so they can come down, partake in that noon meal, and that's a suggested donation of $4. So, yeah.
Sounds great. So for those, you know, there's a lot of folks, I believe, that maybe live outside the Marshall city limits, that relocate in Marshall. It's time to retire. They come into Marshall. How do you then connect with those new residents of Marshall to get them to come to the center? What is your best technique there?
Well, you have the answer already, Doug. You said that we have almost 700 members, right?
Yep.
So the 700 members are out in the community, and these new members come in, and they're going out in the community, and they're saying, I wonder how to connect to this, or I wonder if I can figure out how to do this. So the members are out there infiltrated in the community, so to speak, and they're actually making the connections, and they come down. We also have some that come into town because their family moves in, and then their family will come down seeking a place where they can connect within the community. So it's kind of just like a natural flow that happens. And also we find that by our programs and putting them out there, lots of times that'll draw them in that they're interested in this one program. One of my best stories is that this one person was going to come down only one day a week, maybe only one day a month, because they wanted to do this one activity. They came in for the one activity, enjoyed it so much, they're now down there 4 days a week.
Oh.
So it's just making the connection when they come into the building. We think that's the key part. You have to make that personal connection to make them feel that they're a part of it. And then from there, everything else kind of falls in place. They know it's an open office door. We'll try almost anything. That's always our tagline, almost anything. And then just making that true connection with them, finding out what they're interested in. We literally ask them when they join up, What areas are you interested in? Is there anything we're offering that we can connect you to?
Well, and I know that many of our viewers here of Studio One programming are of that 55 and best population.
Yep.
And we thank them for watching. And of course, this
Yeah.
is another way that they can find out more information. So again, I really appreciate you sharing some of those stories and tips and techniques on how they can even get more involved.
Yep.
But I know that you also do some special things like, you know, I have your newsletter. This is actually, since today is November 1st and this show will be viewed, you know, throughout the month of November, you'll have the opportunity, and you'll have the opportunity once again to get one of these.
Yes.
You can sign up and be a member, and maybe later on in the show we'll flash a phone number or some information
Sure.
across. But of course, each and every month, you do a number of different connections and a number of different programs. And you know, again, I know you have a special event coming up on November 8th, and it's called the Aging Cafe.
Yes.
Would you share with everyone out there what the Aging Cafe is all about?
I'm so excited about this. I did another version of this, and this will shock people probably, except for those who came. We did a death cafe, and people are going, oh, really? You're talking about death? I mean, really, is it like wills, trust, funeral plans? No, it was none of that. What the Aging Cafe is and what the Death Cafe was is we're giving people, very simply, permission to talk about aging. How many people talk about aging in our society?
Not many. We grumble, but we don't grumble out loud typically, maybe to our
Right.
spouse. But
we'll talk about our youth, right? Mm-hmm. We'll talk about young. So we're going to give people the opportunity to talk about aging. And it really excites me because I think out in the Marshall community, there's a lot of misconceptions on what aging is. People assume that once you're this age, then you must have a cane, a walker, or a wheelchair.
oh, yeah.
And I am living proof every day that that is not what Marshall is. I mean, we do have those who don't age as well, that do need a cane or a walker or a wheelchair, but they're still living life. But then we also have those who age very well. So it's going to be a conversation. We have some very young people coming to it, as I shouldn't say very young. We have younger people coming to it, as in, you know, 40s, 50s. We have those that are also from the center that are coming to it. And we would encourage anybody who would like to have that conversation with permission. So what we simply do is we lay out ground rules and we say, this is the ground rules we're going to follow as we do this conversation. We will go around and ask, why did you choose to come to the Aging Cafe?
And again, the date is November 8th. Is there a specific time?
Yes, 5:30 to 7. And people going, an hour and a half?
Oh, my.
I can tell you when we did the Death Cafe, we had a hard time cutting it off at 2 hours.
I would suspect that as people start to reminisce and talk about maybe their stories, and I'll bet there's some wonderful stories that come out, but you are going to kind of lead them in a direction of talking about the aging process, and I'm going to almost bet $100.
Actually,
here.
we're not going to guide them at all.
Oh.
That's part of this wonderful cafe process. We're simply going to ask them one at a time around the room, why did you choose to come to the Aging Cafe? From there, their responses will open doorways that I bet everyone around the table has not thought of, because each response, so we're going to have 10 to 15 people there because you can't hardly handle many more in a conversation. Each response will be different. And what that will do, it'll open hopefully everybody's thought process about aging, and that what I thought it was is only a small portion of what it truly is.
Sounds like a wonderful event, and I'll bet the Aging Cafe is probably going to open up more down the road, and more events such as this will happen. And you know, I want to encourage everyone to do that. We'll put a phone number on the bottom screen. So if you do have any more questions about the November 8th Aging Cafe, you will be able to call Barb or Heather. Anything else for November? Since this is a November show and it runs to about the end of November, anything else you'd like to share? Special events? I know when I stop over, and we do hold a lot of Marshall Community Services programs and activities over there in your classrooms, in your dining area. It's always busy.
Oh yeah, we like to keep them busy. We always tease them down there, and we say if we keep you busy, then we know you're out of trouble for a while. And
Sounds
they
good.
said, well, then if we keep you guys busy, meaning Heather and I, then we're keeping you two out of trouble for a while. And we said, well, maybe.
Sounds
But
good.
truly, the other thing in November, and this is always probably a more difficult time of the year for some of the seniors, and I really want to encourage them that it is Part D season, what I call season. Basically, Part D enrollment opens, and it's open till December 5th, I believe it is, December 5th or 7th. And it's the time where they can look at their prescription drug coverage. And my cue on that is, I hear it so often at the center, someone will say, oh, you should get this plan because I only paid this much money and it really works well for me. But that's not the case, because do you take the same medications that perhaps I take? No. And so the prescription drug programs are really geared toward what you individually take for medications. And the other cue I have, and especially for the boomer generation listening out there, you need to get a Part D plan immediately, even if you do not take any medications. And the reason being is if you don't, and later on in life you need prescription drugs, there will be a permanent penalty. And usually that penalty can be quite sizable. I have seen some cases where it has not been very pretty. So those are my two cues. Check it out for yourself personally if you're in that age as to what plan works for you, because there's different plans that cover different drugs. And the other cue is if you're a boomer, take out a Part D plan even though you don't need it now, because that penalty isn't worth it later on.
Okay, great advice, and I'm glad you shared that, because again, if people have questions, I know people say, oh, let's go on the internet, you'll find all the answers there, but you can't believe everything you hear on the internet or see on the internet.
Nope.
But you can call you, and you have some great advice and your wisdom, and sharing that information is what it's all about.
Right. And another way that they can also do it, because they can go to Medicare.gov, find plans, and they can put in all their medications, and they'll need all the details about it, how often they take it, how many milligrams, and the exact name of the drug. And it'll give you several plans. The hard part with that for some people is that they can't decipher what's the difference between this plan, and that plan, and that's what we help with.
Sounds great.
Yep.
Well, Barb, as our time is quickly going by, I'd like you, if you would, to maybe share a little bit of the information regarding phone numbers, website, anything like that these guys can put across the screen in our final few minutes.
Okay. Yeah, our phone number is 537-6109, and you know that we're located at 107 South 4th Street. And of course, if you just go to the City of Marshall website, we're underneath Community Services, the Adult Community Center.
The hours for the Adult Community Center are?
Normal hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. It's not unusual to find us there later in an evening doing a program or on a weekend doing a program. So just if you get our newsletter, you'll really know, or you can check us out on the website, and our newsletter is also posted there.
All right. And any new viewers out there, as Barb and her staff work towards 800 versus 700, becoming a member is important, because that really is a first step in getting you connected. And how does one become a member?
It's quite simple. You can either call us, and what we need is we need your name, your address, and of course your birth date to make sure you are 55 and best. And then we use that birth date also for grant writing, but we don't share that with anybody else. And then the fee is $15. So it's that simple. And then we'll get you all set up, get you on our mailing list. You'll get our lovely newsletter every month, and it'll have all the activities that we have in it on a monthly basis right in front of you. And then if you happen to lose that in the process, if you give us your email address, we'll also email you the newsletter. So you'll have it in 2 formats.
Sounds great. Well, Barb, I want to thank you for being our special guest here on the Marshall Community Services November edition. And I encourage you, if you're 55 and best, get that membership. It's one of the best deals you can find out there. Become a member of the Adult Community Center, that living life. You're home away from home, as you put it. And of course, online, you can go to ci.marshall.mn.us. go to the Community Services link, click on the Adult Community Center, and you'll find all kinds of wonderful information.
Yep.
And of course, pick up our brochure. Some of the things we talked about, the Aging Cafe is also listed in there. And continue just to stay in touch. I think that's the key, is connecting our families, our friends, our older adults, everyone together, so everybody's in the know of what's happening.
Yep, that's for sure.
All right, Barb. Well, thank you again. Any last thoughts before we close the show or close your segment of the show?
Yeah. Well, you know, you were talking about membership, and that if you're in the Marshall community, join us. I would like to extend a welcome to those in the surrounding communities. We have people from Ghent, Taunton, Minneota, Ballatin, Lynn, Tracy, Cottonwood. It just goes on and on. I know I'm missing a handful of towns. So you don't have to be in the Marshall community to join us and come participate in the activities. And then the other thing I would challenge people out there is, as you're approaching retirement, you know, really come check us out. We do a wide range of things, and we've been finding one of our fun things to do is we do day tours. And we have really been checking out businesses in Marshall, and we get to go behind the scenes. I know more about Marshall businesses in the last year and a half than I knew in the last 20 years, simply by doing that. And why they're here and what they all give back to this community is something we don't often know. And then the other fun thing we've been doing is in the summer, because the weather is a bit more trustworthy in this area, we're able to go out a little farther. Just recently we went to Hendricks, and we went to the brewery over there. And just in case anybody's wondering, Heather and I don't drink on the job. We have a lot of the seniors try to get us to take a sip, and we say, nope, we don't do that while we're working. But we were over at the brewery. For those of you who haven't been over to that brewery and heard that story, it's an amazing story. It started out as a few guys wanting a hunting shack, and now it's a brewery. So we learned so much about the communities around us, and what we do is we're just connecting the seniors back to the community, and they can see how they're really connected. And that's our main focus down there, is connecting them back so they can live the life of adventure.
Well, thank you very much, Barb. And once again, we appreciate your being on our Marshall Community Services news show for November of 2017. I know we've only got a couple minutes left, so I'm going to just kind of wrap up the show here.
Okay.
We had so many more things to talk about regarding community services and what's happening in November. And I guess one important thing that I'd like to request of our viewers, of our community services families, and everybody throughout community services, is right now, all the way through December, the end of December, Marshall Community Services has available out there a very wonderful survey that I'd encourage everyone, young or old, to participate in. And of course, our ongoing effort is to improve our services, and we invite you to take this community services needs assessment. It's only 50 questions, and they're very to the point, and it doesn't take very long to answer those questions. And of course, there's always a segment on what can we do better to provide better quality services, programs, events, activities, facilities, everything you can think of through our community services program. And of course, we do have hard copies available down at City Hall, which is right downtown in the heart of Marshall. You can go online. It's a Survey Monkey, and I know for some people, Survey Monkey things sounds kind of funny, but they're out there. You should see more information. Check out our website, of course. Marshall Community Services has a website. Google Marshall Community Services, the City of Marshall. You'll find out everything you need to know about how to access that survey, but we encourage everyone to click on that, give us some feedback, and get involved with Marshall Community Services. We got a number of wonderful programs coming up. In fact, our winter-spring brochure will be coming out the middle of December, almost just a little more than a month away. And check that out. There'll be wonderful programs on there. And of course, again, you can contact Marshall Community Services at 537-6767. You can go to our website, www.ci.marshall.mn.us, and get in touch with Marshall Community Services. And without that being said, with that's enough being said, on behalf of Barb Lipinski, my name's Doug Goodman, urging you to keep fit, mentally involved, and enjoy life by participating in your Marshall Community Services programs and activities. Thank you, and see you next month. Good evening.